course not. We are very excited. Okay. Yes, sir. We encourage
So
every.
would you announce where it is so people? Well, it's
Yes,
on
sir.
my Facebook. I already told people to go to my Facebook page.
Yes, sir.
But if they
I
have a
sent it out.
problem, where else would they go?
I'm gonna upload it to YouTube after we finish.
Okay, good. So you can
Yes, sir.
send that as well.
Correct.
What came up?
Okay. And yes, sir. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very, very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a great guest, one that we are humbled and honored to have before us and our viewing audience, attorney and student minister Abdul Arif Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. How are you today, brother Joshua?
I'm doing great, sir. I'm doing great. And I thank you very much, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule to give us some information as well as some inspiration.
Well, we're very proud of you. And let me just say that at the beginning.
Praise be to Allah.
Just in full disclosure, I have known you since your birth, and I'm very proud to see the great work that you're doing, and many young people like yourself who are taking these teachings to our younger brothers and sisters for the future, because you all are what we do this for down into the generations.
Praise be to Allah. Well, thank you, sir. And some like to Teresa Pearson. Teresa Pearson is the greetings. Yes, sir. Well, before we get started, I wanted to say that you, like you said, you've known me before I was even born. And there's so much that I want to ask you, but then there's so much that the viewing audience wants to ask you as well. We want to come current because everybody's speaking of justice and your beautiful article in the final call. But I have been reaching out to your son Hakeem way before this, trying to get you, because I feel that the people in the nation and around the world should know of the works that you've done and contributed to rebuilding our nation. So how can you let us know when you first heard the teachings, sir, of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Well, the first time I heard, well, first of all, let me just say, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, the exalted Christ, and I bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is their reminder, servant, and warner. But more than that, he is the Messiah and Jesus among us today. I greet you in these holy ones, greetings of peace of Assalamu alaikum. I'm very grateful to be on the show, and I'm grateful to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to be afforded this opportunity, because at the end of the day, it is what he has taught us that allows us to have something to say. Now, when did I first hear the teachings?
Yes, sir.
I first heard them by actually reading The Message to the Black Man. I was in college, and the very first course that I took in Black Studies, because I started out as a major in biology, then I went from biology to political science, and then I became a double major in African American studies and political science. One of the first books I read in my Black Studies course was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I was very captured by that book, and became very interested in the wisdom that I read of him. And so as time went on in my studies, I became very, quote unquote, militant and activist. And I actually wanted to start my own organization. And I created an organization called Ubano. It was all on paper, but I had laid out this whole entire organization.
Yes, sir.
Ubano, which stood for Universal Black African Nationalist Organization. And we had a creed that now, as I reflect on it today, reflects what we do in the Nation of Islam on behalf of our people, and particularly the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to me, is the quintessence of this statement. And the theme of that was, we the willing, led by the unknown, will do the impossible for the ungrateful. We have been doing so much with so little for so long. We are now prepared to do everything with nothing. And that's how I sought the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I heard in 1978, late 77, early 78, that he was standing up to rebuild the Nation of Islam. And as I read of him, I knew him to be a very significant protege, as I understood it in those days, of Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
I was actually doing my senior thesis in college on the social and political thought of Malcolm X.
Mm.
I went to Atlanta on a field trip with my class because I'd heard the minister was coming to Atlanta Clark University. We didn't make that connection because I don't believe he made that event. A few months later, in early 1979, March or April, my college professor, who was my mentor, Ackland Lynch, who knew the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, informed me he was coming to Baltimore and that he would be speaking at what is called Coppin State College, which is an urban college in the urban neighborhood. And he asked me to deliver a package. And so by that time, I'm in my senior year. I've grown a dashiki. I had a African name. I wouldn't even allow people to call me by my slave name. I was that militant. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I went to Coppin to meet the minister in my dashiki and in my Jackson 5 Bush that was way out here.
Yes, sir.
So we met. We walked across the campus, and I started fishing people right then, asking them to come and hear the minister. When we went into the auditorium, it was a 1,000-seat auditorium, but there was only about 50 people in that audience. But what struck me was that he taught as if it was filled to capacity. And the message that day was, it only takes one man to turn a whole nation and a whole world around. And he went through the great prophets, Abraham and Moses and
yes,
Jesus,
sir.
Confucius, Buddha, Zoroaster, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and some of the other great worthies. After he finished that, I went up to the stage and he knelt down, took out a small leather valise notepad from his pocket, wrote his number down and his name, and that's how we began in 1979. And I accepted the great opportunity to accept Islam under him and to begin to work in Baltimore City as a student coordinator in the ministry in Baltimore. I'd like to add that we brought him back to Coppin about a year and a half later, maybe 18 months later. We had to put speakers on the outside. That same auditorium was filled to capacity.
Praise be to
and
Allah.
overflowing into the street because of the work that the few of us were doing to let people know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was coming. We also have, to this day, the oldest running radio broadcast. In 1980, we started on WEAA radio in Baltimore, a broadcast of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's messages. And then at that point, we had our brother, Kwesi Mfume, who was actually program director of WEAA. Play the minister's messages for free. And we thank Allah for him and we wish him well
yes,
as he's now back in Congress. So that's in short how it came about.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you all. Thank you, sir, for your honesty, your transparency. And thank you all for you getting a lot of people giving comments. And thank you all for sending love to our brother, student minister, Abdul Arif Muhammad. How did your parents feel about you accepting the teaching, sir?
Well, I have to be honest, my parents really didn't understand it, especially my father, because at the time I was a college grad, the first college graduate in our family, really the first to have graduated from high school, much less college. And so initially my father, who I remember now, didn't really understand the Muslims. And he came to his negative understanding of the Muslims based upon Muhammad Ali. My father did not like Muhammad Ali. He thought Ali ran his mouth too much.
Yes.
Very serious man. He didn't do a lot of talking, and he didn't like braggadocious type of people. So he didn't like Ali. And I'll never forget, and that's spilled over to his view about the nation. And I'll never forget when Ali fought Frazier in 1971. I'm rooting for Ali, and my dad is rooting for Frazier. So the first fight that Frazier won, my father was a happy man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He really didn't understand, you know. My mother being a mother, he's grown, you know, he has the right. She didn't understand either, but I will tell you this, the beauty, since you brought this up,
Yes,
of
sir.
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He visited Baltimore one year, it was in the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere between 89 and 91.
Yes, sir.
And I asked him if he would meet with my parents.
Mm.
Not only did he meet with my parents, he invited them to dinner in his suite.
Praise be to Allah.
And we had the most beautiful time with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, showing you the quality of the love of this man that we serve.
Yes, sir.
He that humble to invite poor people who people look down on. And I have to tell you that my mom and dad from that day forward felt that they were worth something. They felt that they were not just poor people that no one cared about, but that somebody like the minister honored them with his presence. And of course, my father went to work the next day, and the minister was so impressed with my father, he sent my father a telegram on Father's Day. My father went to work letting everybody know, and they said, "You lying. Farrakhan ain't send you no telegram." So he had to go bring the telegram for them to see it.
Yes, sir.
And my mother was very proud every time she would see the minister on TV. My son is with him. My son is with him. So that love that he showed lifted my parents into believing that they were people of value and they were happy. And my father told me not long before he passed, he said to me, "Son, I didn't understand what you were doing. I was very disappointed, but I have to say now, I see and understand why you're doing what you're doing." And he really admired and respected the minister. So that was a beautiful story in my mind.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you. And a lot of people was commenting, all praise be to Allah, beautiful. And thank you all for continuing to send love to us, our brother, Minister Abdul Arif Muhammad. Now, can you please, my sister is a member of a sorority, AKA, and there are so many leaders in the Nation of Islam or student servants in the Nation of Islam who matriculated through college and joined fraternities and sororities. Can you let us know why you chose your fraternity, sir?
Well, at the time, the fraternity I joined back in the mid 70s, just before I met the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, was Phi Beta Sigma fraternity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, truthfully, the reason why I chose Phi Beta Sigma was because I was on a campus of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. There were no Black fraternities on the campus or sororities at all. Started on that campus in 1974. So it was Phi Beta Sigma that came to the campus, and they set up the first charter of any Black fraternity on that campus. And so I was one of the first members of the first line that pledged there after the charter line. So that's pretty much why. And also what I liked about Phi Beta Sigma, in addition, it was the only fraternity there, but what I really liked about it, which is why I joined, they really impressed me with having a sense of brotherhood. We had a slogan, brotherhood for service, service to humanity. And they did not allow in our training or disciplining you to pledge, they did not believe in beating you with paddles and
Yes,
they played mental games, but I was pleased with that because I really was not, my mind at that time was, I'm not nobody's slave.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Taught me to be fiercely independent. You was not gonna hit me with nothing if you didn't
Yes,
think
sir.
you were gonna get struck back.
Yes, sir.
And I remember a couple of times we got into fights, my line with our older line brothers, because there were some who come from outside our college who were members of Sigma from College Park, and they believed in the old school, beat you down. So it was
Yes, sir.
times we rumbled. We had a couple of brothers on that line. Some of them had black belts, brown belts, and we made a pledge. Anybody that tried to attack us like that, we would fight back. So that's how that came along. And I went over in 1976, February, the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. And that was my first taste of true brotherhood. And many of those brothers that I pledged with, 40 something years later, we're still, like 44 years now, are still together. We communicate with each other. We see each other at events. We usually have an annual event every year, but I don't think we will this year. But so this is that kind of friendship that we've kept and fostered since that time.
Praise be to Allah. Wonderful. And my sister Miriam also told me that to make sure that I asked you about how important was the fraternity in helping you in the Million Man March planning stages, and were they of assistance to you and to the Nation of Islam?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, for the 1995, the first Million Man March.
Yes, sir.
The historic Million Man March.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
2 million men were present, and there were women there too. Let's not forget there were sisters that were there as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Phi Beta Sigma, my fraternity, I knew, of course, the officials. I was pretty well known among them, and they offered to let us use their national headquarters in Washington, D.C. As the headquarters for the Million Man March. And we are very grateful to them for extending to us that beautiful courtesy. And they even, at the time when Brother Ben Chavis came on board, they made him an honorary member of Sigma. But he didn't pledge, just for the record.
Yes, sir.
But they made him an honorary member. So they were very helpful. They were very instrumental. They charged us very little, if anything, and it gave us a base nationally. And of course, by that time, your dad was in Chicago.
Yes, sir.
As the Supreme Captain, and he used to come to Washington, and we would set up base there and bring in the FOI from all over the country, and we would hit the streets in Washington to help. And he really did a magnificent job driving and pushing. And I'll never forget that famous paper that helped us raise funds for the Million Man March, because that first march, no one was giving any support. In fact, many were saying it couldn't be done. They didn't believe it. Most of the Negro leadership didn't believe it could be done, especially since it was on a Monday.
Yes, sir.
And people were cracking, N-words ain't gonna take off their job and this, that, and the third. And then all of a sudden, we had to raise, a couple of million. So we published the final call, a newspaper called Why a Million Man March. It was a $2 edition, very historic. And I know in Washington, D.C., we had at least 60,000, but it was from the sales of that paper all across the country. We published about 1 million copies. And it was that paper that helped to fund the Million Man March. And of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spent out of his pocket well over $500,000 himself to fund the Million Man March. So we thank Allah for him forever and ever. But that great work was done by so many. We could not have done it without the mighty FOI and the mighty MGT. The workers, the believers of the Nation of Islam really, really helped to lift this to where it was. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan traveled throughout this country to energize people to come to that march, and they did.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. Now, speaking of the Million Man March, sir, you said when you first saw the Most High Minister Louis Farrakhan, you knew him as a protege of Malcolm X. How did you go from seeing him from a protege of Malcolm X, a minister, an activist, to seeing him, as you said in your salutation, opening salutations, the Messiah? the Jesus in our midst. How did you go from that, from seeing him as that to the Messiah?
Well, it's called simply study and
Mm,
grow.
mm.
Um, as I said, when I met the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I considered myself a Black nationalist at the time.
Yes, sir.
And my interest in him was on the basis that I understood that he was a protege of Malcolm.
Yes, sir.
As I got to know him and listen to him, and I was saying to myself, wow, this man is, because Malcolm was very fiery, all of the speeches you would hear. But
Yes, sir.
I didn't know the spiritual side of Malcolm X. I knew more of the political side because a lot of what was being promoted was his speeches. I didn't realize it then after he left the nation, not while he was in the nation.
Yes, sir.
In later years, I did hear speeches of Brother Malcolm X when he was the minister of Mosque Number 7, and he could teach. But it was something about the minister, he was so spiritual that when you talk to him, he would speak as you and I are speaking right now.
Yes, sir.
He would speak scripturally like that. It was just so conversational.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he's a man that's always guiding and giving you insight from on high, from the vantage point of our God and his Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And of course, as I began to study more, remember I said I read Message to the Black Man.
Yes, sir.
Before I met the minister. And what struck me about Message to the Black Man, it had answered for me a question that I had growing up in the hood, because our family was very poor. There were nine of us. There were 9 of us. I was the oldest son. My mom only went to the 3rd grade of school, and she was a functional illiterate. She could recognize things by looking. My father only went to the 8th grade of school. And so we were very, very poor. My father, with 9 children and a husband and wife in the house, never made more than $5,000 in a year. And if you can wrap your mind around that concept, so we were very poor, many days without food. It was a tough life. But the point I'm making here is I had always a question growing up, because in the Black neighborhoods, there was a segregation where Blacks lived on one side of the railroad tracks. And when you would cross the railroad tracks, you'd be in the white neighborhoods. But what I would notice in the white neighborhoods, they had all the stores, the supermarket, doctors' offices. So we had to always go across the railroad tracks into the white neighborhoods to get food and things like that. If you were playing sports, it was with the white sports league, because there was no Black sports leagues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We would go and play football and basketball. We would go into the white neighborhoods and you would hear them, get out of here, you nigger. And you would hear all of these things. So I used to say, why are they so hateful? So I wasn't no fan of white people from the gate, as they would say.
Yes, sir.
I know they didn't like us and I didn't like them.
Yes, sir.
Because they were always so evil and hostile to us. And so I used to wonder, why were they so evil? And what is the answer? Now, I read many, many books on this. I read Sheikh Anta Diop, African Origins of Western.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Read Franz Fanon, Black Skin, White Mass, and Franz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth. I read.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I read all of these books, but it was not until I read Message to the Black Man that the answer hit me. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he is the devil. I said, that explains it.
Yes, sir.
That absolutely explains it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So as I begin to study more and more, the teachings is what helped me to grow, and being in the ministry to represent these teachings. And as time has gone on, an excellent study guide for all of your listeners, very, very significant. 2 books, actually.
Yes,
One,
sir.
Study Guide 20, which originally is entitled Closing the Gap, Study Guide 20.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then there's the book, Closing the Gap.
Yes, sir.
And so these are 2 magnificent studies of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he talks about how a man of God on a mission, people come to him at a certain time in his life and a certain time in their life. And so you meet the man at a particular period in time and you come to follow him because where he is and where you are, there's agreement. He said, but
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
times when that man grows and he develops and he evolves, gaps develop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
At that point, when these gaps develop, that there becomes a separation between the man and those who say they follow him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm thankful to Allah that I have been able to stay the course and to continue to study and to try to grow and to be here 41 years later now to say I'm still a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And thank you again, sir, for your sacrifice. And I must thank your family for their sacrifice as well. You know, as we say, we called you uncle, and you know, Haki was my mentor, you know, all through middle school and high school. I wanted to play basketball because Haki played basketball. So of course your son was very instrumental in my upbringing as well. And thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. My next question is, sir, when we think of the Nation of Islam, many people who are my viewing audience, who are outside of the nation, they see us as a military group. You see a man teaching, security, strong love for Black people. But many times the lawyers, that's not highlighted to the masses of our people. How important has law and your degree been in helping Black people as a whole, but in more in particular, the Nation of Islam?
Well, thank you for that question. And before I answer it, I want to say too, Brother Joshua, that I thank Allah for you and your family. You know, your mom and your dad are very, very special to me because we all came up together in that Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. And your uncle, Brother Jamil,
yes, sir,
I have to give a shout out to because he was actually the first Muslim follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad after myself that I ever met. He was the first one. I was literally out soldiering with the final call by myself, fishing by myself. And I went to a event in Washington, D.C., where they normally had it. It's like a Jamaican festival or what have you. And I was, I was sitting on a bench and your uncle Jamil came walking up. He was, of course, J.C. Ball then, but
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
I looked at him and he looked at me and he said, "Are you Muslim?" I said, "Yeah, are you Muslim?" And that's how we got together. So I had another brother to soldier with. And so I thank Allah for him, and
praise be to
our
Allah.
friendship endures to this very, very, very day. With your mom and your dad, I remember your dad when he came in the ranks, him and your uncle Rodney, or we call him Akil. And
yes, sir, yes, sir.
Those two men sacrificing to go on one of the very first world tours of the minister in 1986. Both of them. And your mom has such a special place for me because, as I told you offline, but I'll say it publicly, she was the first sister that was sent. I was over there struggling in Baltimore trying to build the study group and the teachings, and she was sent from over in Washington to be my sister in charge. And I'm talking about in 1980, 81, 82. So I always think of her as she was, and this is all even before your mom and dad got together and got married. So we go the way back. So I love them dearly. I pray for her and we pray for her and your father. We have to give honor to those who have sacrificed and who still are trotting. But what makes us most proud is to see young people like yourself and other people in the Nation of Islam. It gives us joy and confidence in knowing that this will continue after us.
Praise be to Allah.
Now, what was the question again?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question is, how for the people who see the Nation of Islam only as military and teaching?
How does my legal stuff?
Yes, sir. The lawyer. Yes, sir. The legal side.
Well, you know, I didn't know what it would do, but I know this. It has been a joy. First of all, we're taught to get knowledge. Let me just say that first.
Yes, sir.
And we're to seek after knowledge. Remember, Master Fard Muhammad's father, he went searching all over the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In pieces of knowledge to feed his son and educate his son.
Yes, sir.
Quran says we seek after knowledge from the cradle to the grave.
Yes, sir.
Becoming one with Allah. And it said a man that goes out in search of knowledge never returns. So when we say in the Nation of Islam, we have a saying, we must exercise the greatest of intelligence at all times.
Yes, sir.
You get knowledge to become intelligent. One way is the study of God's word without doubt, which we have been given the revelation of God and the knowledge of who God is. What makes us different from everyone else is because we have been taught, number one, the knowledge of God, his reality.
Yes,
That
sir.
he's not a spirit or a spook, that he's a human being, the supreme of beings.
Yes, sir.
We are taught, in addition, the knowledge of self. And the knowledge of self is that we are the original man of the planet and that we are the chosen of God. And three, the knowledge of the devil. This is not new to us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The knowledge of other than self. The
Yes,
knowledge of other than self, which is the enemy of God, Satan himself.
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the risen Christ, and there man among us today, a divine man in our midst, the Messiah, the Son of God, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So
yes, sir.
That's the best knowledge.
Praise be to
But
Allah.
we also ought to seek other knowledge because as some may be aware that I helped the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan along with some other great brothers and sisters on his research team.
Yes, sir.
And that research work is to do this very particular thing. It is to help to undergird the revelation to prove in fact that it bears witness to the revelation. So getting knowledge, see, when you see a lecture now, you don't just, you hear the scriptures, but then you see other information that bears witness to what the scripture is saying.
Yes,
so
sir. Yes, sir.
knowledge is very important to know.
Yes, sir.
And so whether it's in law, which I chose, medicine, journalism, engineering, the sciences, architecture, you name it, I would encourage all of our young people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not to think you don't need knowledge. You need it.
Yes, sir.
You need it because all of the knowledge that's out there came from us. It just has another bent because the devil has it, but Allah will perfect that knowledge. So don't, I'll never forget, Brother Josh, when I was growing up, truthfully speaking about knowledge, I used to be called Mr. Peabody. And for those who don't know that, there was a cartoon about a dog, a cartoon, and he had big glasses, and he was very intelligent, like a Sherlock Holmes.
Yes,
and
sir.
He had a sidekick, and they would call him Mr. Peabody. Well, growing up, they called me Mr. Peabody because I was a person, I wasn't necessarily athletic, but I was well read because I watched my father reading books. I took up that following my father, and I used to read at least 10 books a week when I was a young boy.
Praise be to Allah.
So they used to call me Mr. Peabody, my friends, to kind of make fun of the fact that I was always in books.
Yes,
but
sir.
what ended up happening, my studying made me very popular at a certain point because when my friends who were out there playing football and basketball and all of that, I would try it, but it wasn't my forte.
Yes, sir.
But when they had to take exams and get tests and quizzes, they would come and see me and
Yes,
ask
sir.
me
Yes,
to
sir.
tutor them.
Yes,
So
sir.
when I was growing up, I didn't get into a lot of fights because most of the so-called bad dudes I tutored. So, I had protection in the
Yes,
hood.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A few fights, but most of the time, and that was showing you the value of knowledge. And so I'm thank Allah for that on behalf of my family, because I came from a family that did not pursue knowledge, not because they didn't want to, but because of the condition. But Allah chose me to be one that pursued knowledge. So I encourage that in every field of endeavor, because as we're taught, every human being that is on this planet has an aim and purpose in life. So
Yes,
you have to discover that and then go seek after the knowledge to help you perfect the gift that God gave you. But you can't do it without seeking knowledge.
Wonderful, sir. And thank you again. You have so many comments. Thank you all. Thank you all. Brother Minister, what has been your favorite case that you've ever worked on?
Wow, defending the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, one of the,
Mm.
of course, they're celebrated, but it was a big case when they attempted to falsely accuse the minister of being involved with the assassination of Malcolm X. We fought a lawsuit all the way up to the Supreme Court. Sister, our great sister and doctor and minister, student national spokesperson, Ava Muhammad, was licensed in New York and was our lead attorney. I was her co-counsel. And then we had Sister Barbara Emanuel, at that time Perche, but now Hippolyte, was another part of that group. And one of our brothers, Brother Larry, who we lost many years ago, may Allah be pleased with him.
May Allah be
He
pleased.
was the core of that group that fought this case
Yes,
against
sir.
some of the most powerful imposter Jews in the world. And we
Yes, sir.
fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And they had great political power. And I remember them wanting to bring the minister into New York to depose him, to put him under examination. And we were like, no, if you're going to do that, you have to come to Chicago. Well, they were so frightened. The judge did not grant them the motion to bring the minister. So then immediately they stopped the case and filed a motion to have it dismissed. And of course, the court granted that to them. But what we did in that case, the New York Post was planning on running a 16-part series to prove that the minister was involved in the assassination of Malcolm X. And we grinded that to an immediate halt with the filing of our lawsuit. That was a major, major, major moment in terms of them attempting to slander our beloved minister and defame him. So that was a great case. There was another recent case where, again, another imposter Jew sued the minister and us, and particularly the minister, trying to accuse the minister of causing the Dallas shooting where that shooter shot many people, police, and killed police.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that was another false charge, and Allah blessed us. Myself, a brother out of Dallas named Brother Michael Muhammad, I thank Allah for him, and others of our legal team, the Brother Theo and Sister Pamela and Brother
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brother Jimmy and Sister Sadia, and of course our great Student National Secretary, Brother Saad Aline, and Sister
Yes, sir.
Minister Ava, all of the great lawyers. If I'm missing anyone, forgive me. Sister Barbara, of course, I mentioned. So all of these have been with us as we fought this fight. Sister Tiffany up in California. So we have Sister, she's a judge now, Sister Nichelle, who has been added to our legal team, is a judge in New York. We have a great group of brothers and sisters, a great cadre of lawyers with the spirit to fight on behalf of our beloved minister. So I think I mentioned the majority of them that immediately come to mind. Brother Jacques in New York, Brother Collins. So I can go on and on. They're
Yes, sir.
they're everywhere. So if I miss you, charge it to my heart, not to my head. So
beautiful. So Brother Minister, do you mean to say that members of the Nation of Islam aren't just, a criminal sect, if you will, that we have people in the Nation of Islam who are, educated and lawyers and productive members of society?
Brother, let me just say this, without a doubt, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when he began, he was on tour teaching at college campuses. So he taught many, many, many college students. I was one.
Yes, sir.
It is a false notion that the Nation of Islam only has former convicts and all of that. And the fact of the matter is, whatever you were before you came to the nation, once you came into this knowledge, you become a Muslim.
Yes,
so
sir. Yes, sir.
Muslims in the Nation of Islam. So the enemy trying to use that is just false. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has attracted men and women from every discipline, every strata in this planet, of people of almost any skill that you want to identify. Accountants, we have it in the nation. Architects, we have them in the nation. Farmers, we have them in the nation. Lawyers, we have them in the nation. Doctors, we have them in the nation. You can just run down almost any engineers, we have them in the nation. So you can just run it down with their mathematicians. We have them in the nation. Teachers, we have them in
Yes,
the
sir.
nation. So the nation has many, 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 every discipline is in the Nation of Islam. Marketing, PR, tech people in terms of the internet and
Yes, sir.
so you name it, we have it now. A true nation of people that can bring any talent to bear for our nation.
Praise be to Allah. Okay, and thank you again, Brother Minister. Thank you all for watching, and I see you all's comments. You have a lot of comments, Brother Minister. My next question is, I saw a picture. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A lot of comments and people reaching out and giving you love. I can't read them because it's going to throw off the questions right now. But
well, I send all the love back, and thank you all very much.
Yes, sir. I saw some pictures of the popular case, the O.J. Simpson case, of Johnny Cochran having the FOI do security for him because of the death threats that he was receiving during the O.J. Simpson trial. And I had never thought, even though I love law shows and law movies, how valuable lawyers were in getting people off or prosecuting people. Because lawyers get death threats and get attacked, did you, when you were going against the so-called Jews, did you ever feel that you needed security, or did you ever fear for your life when you were handling cases against the Supreme Court? Did you ever fear for your life? And if so, how did you overcome that fear?
Well, it says in the Holy Quran, if you believe in Allah on the last day and submit, there is no fear for you.
Allahu Akbar.
Nor shall you grieve.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was ever afraid. No, brother, I can't say that. I was conscious, though, and mindful. And so we do you understand?
Yes, sir.
But that's a part of our training. That's a part of our training. You know, we always should cover down. You know, we are a disciplined organization that has a structure, a military line structure. But it's not the military line structure of the enemy. See? And if you all can find it, go and read the book, The Meaning of the FOI.
Yes, sir.
It exists. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about, we are soldiers for God. So our way is not the way of the enemy, but we're soldiers nonetheless.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Beautiful. And I wanted to ask you, Brother Minister, I saw pictures, of course, of your work in DC with the Dope Busters, and my parents, you know, had pictures of you all over, you know, their house. And I saw something that said Muslims for Congress, and I interviewed Brother Minister Sean X. Rakeem, and I saw you all running for Congress and doing that. What led to that in that time period?
Well, I'm definitely going to share that one. First, though, let me say, as it relates to the Dope Busters, which was principally started, the idea with with the FOI.
Yes, sir.
Going and soldiering. You know, every Saturday we used to have call outs in DC.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the mosque that we had on Kenilworth Avenue, right down from that was Mayfair Mansions. And it was a complex where our poor people lived, but it was being run over by drugs and guns and violence.
Yes, sir.
So your dad, who at the time was the captain, we would then every Saturday assemble, because in those days, it wasn't a question what a brother was doing on a Saturday. You know, when we was growing up in the nation, Saturday was a hardcore push day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Final call and getting out, going door to door, being out in the community. So it was soldiering, you know, and that was always a beautiful day, fishing people into the mosque. These were the things we did. So we started going to Mayfair Mansions with the final call. Well, what happened is, as our presence became strong there, we started to see, and the owner of the complex, I think his name was Mr. Reynolds, saw, and he was a lawyer, by the way, saw the violence going down when we were there. And so it started by us doing what we supposed to do as the FOI, go out and fish, go out and soldier. And so they saw it, so they started asking us to come back a little more. And at one point we went there, and there ended up being one of the brothers, or one of our poor brothers, who doesn't have the knowledge of self.
Yes, sir.
The unfortunate lack of intelligence. He pulled the gun, and one of our brothers, I love him dearly, Brother Ronald, we knew him as the body slammer.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Somehow
sir.
the cameras were there. Somehow the media was there,
Yes,
and
sir.
saw him get dealt with appropriately for pulling a gun. And
Yes, sir.
that started what became the Dope Busters, and then ultimately NOI Security. But your father had a great hand, and the soldiers with him. Brother, you was first officer at that time. Your uncle, Captain Akil, who
Yes,
was
sir.
flying then. There was Brother Tim.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Atlanta, right? Who ultimately became the first officer and the captain. So these are men. And Dr. Alim was a great spokesman for NOI Security, and the minister even visited DC. So we thank Allah for that. What caused us to run for Congress?
Yes, sir.
Well, at that time, the minister was in a very intense battle with the imposter Jews, who falsely accused him of lies, which I don't wish to continue to repeat.
Yes, sir.
But we, if you go to noirg.org, noirg.org, we have a document there that documents the history of the attack on the minister. I will only say this: it was the imposter Jews that called him a Black Hitler. He never brought up Hitler. They labeled him that. And they lied on him about his statement on religion. But again,
Yes,
I've gone over some of these things, but in that article, there's a history of how all of this controversy came about. And the truth is, it was their anti-Black hatred of us and their hatred of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, where they attacked him. And he's not a man that's going to be pushed around.
Yes,
he's going to stand and fight. We are taught as Muslims that we are never the aggressor in word or in deed.
Yes, sir.
But when you are attacked, fight with those who fight with you, and God will bless you to be the winner. That's our man personified.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Back down. He's God's man. So the Black Congress people at the time were pretty much attacking and falsely denying the minister, because the pressure, the imposter Jewish pressure, is very, very big. And so to see our Black Congress people bowing down was hurtful. But
Yes,
at that time, they didn't represent right leadership for us. And so it was thought, why don't we field candidates for Congress? Because our people need a Muslim politician. And it was written.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What we did, that's what Untitled Elijah Muhammad said. He said, we support those candidates who are sympathetic to our cause.
Yes, sir.
What we really need is a Muslim politician. So we fielded, or the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan approved the fielding of 3 candidates: Brother Dr. Alim for a congressional seat in Maryland, myself for the DC delegate position in Washington, DC, and then Brother Sean Brackeen, who ran for the citywide school board. And though we did not win the elections, we made a tremendous impact. And what they understood is that with the power of the nation, that if we started to field candidates against them, they might not remain in their seat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they begin to respect, as they should have in the beginning, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And of course, since that time, our brothers and sisters in Congress, though the enemy still pressures them, many of them had admiration and respect for our minister. You'll see there's several pictures of him with various Congress people and those who still respect him. But that's how that started, dear brother.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you, sir, for putting your reputation on the line, your life on the line, man, for our nation for so many years. We appreciate that, sir.
Well, I follow a man who has demonstrated it every day for 65 years. We can do no less.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Your dad is one that has done the same. Your mom is one that has done the same. Your uncle, Brother Jamil, has done the same. There are many that have put their lives on the line that we may not know, but we know of those who have been on this path, but we can do no less than the messenger of God in our midst, the Jesus among us, the Son of God, that God showed to the world on July 4th. We can do no less.
Allahu Akbar. Yes, sir. I wanted to add, speaking of the Jesus in our midst, sir, once he decided to give you a holy name, could you let us know the circumstance and what does your name mean, sir?
Well, the circumstances, I was at a dinner and it was
Yes,
like
sir.
March, I think, of 91, as I recall. And he just looked at me and, you know, he had, of course, intimated that he'd had a name for me. And we were at the National House at dinner with several other of our student ministers. And he gave me the name at that dinner, Abdul Arif Muhammad.
Yes,
Of
yes,
course,
sir.
the name Abdul, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that was the name Master Fard Muhammad wanted to give him.
Yes,
Abdul
sir.
means servant of,
Yes,
or
sir.
servant of. And the name Arif, as the minister explained it to me, meant one who has knowledge of the true reality of God. Okay, we know what Muhammad,
Yes,
but here's the key: let us not, as we would say in the street, let us not trip.
yes, sir.
Who Arif means I'm servant of the one,
Yes,
of the true reality of God, and that's
sir.
Minister Louis Farrakhan. Let's not get that twisted.
Yes,
You
sir. Yes, sir.
we can get drunk sometimes with how we think and become
Yes,
wise
sir.
in our own eyes, and that's when we fall. But I'm clear that I'm the servant of the one who has knowledge of the true reality of God.
Beautiful. Allahu Akbar. Yes, sir. My next question for you, sir, is what has been your greatest trial in your tenure in the nation, and how have you overcome that, sir?
Ooh, the greatest trial. Well, I don't know if I would say greatest, but there's been several challenges in our endeavor. And I would say this to you in all sincerity. You don't go through this work and do this work without making mistakes, without stumbling. Certainly there are personal pains that you have that, of course, we won't share that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Disappointing things where you were disappointed with yourself for not being what you know you should have been.
Yes, sir.
To the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I probably would say the greatest trial of my life, when I think back on it, was my disappointment in terms of being the Mid-Atlantic Regional Minister. What do I mean by that? I was a good worker. You follow me?
Yes,
I
sir.
worked hard, but I really did not live up to the standard or to the ideals of what a Muslim should have been. And it caused me a lot of trial and tribulation, a lot of pain, and that was my greatest trial. But in that greatest trial, not that I didn't love serving, because I worked hard every day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There was no issue about that. I was a hard worker, but you know, you can hurt yourself. You understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was not one that was willing. That I didn't believe in hurting people, but I did things that hurt me. You know, as the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan said once, he said, "Man, what man would give somebody the nails and the hammer to put him up on the cross?"
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So my point is, but in that trial was also a blessing in that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan helped me to recover. He gave me another chance to serve, and he gave me another chance to stand. And so I just say to all of us, we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall. We pray Allah that he has mercy on us, that when we stumble and fall, that he is merciful to us. And I was just blessed to have a man like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, see more in me than I obviously saw in myself at the time.
Allahu Akbar.
That he again lifted me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that I don't have words to describe what that meant to me and what that means to me to this very day.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you, sir, for being an example of consistency and being so transparent in your greatest trial. What has been your greatest joy in your tenure in the Nation of Islam?
Oh man, my greatest joy is being with him. You know, and the fact that I have had the blessed opportunity to be in different parts of the world with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Not as much as Dad was, but Dad is, you know, it is a Guinness Book of World Records with him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I have been blessed to be in different parts of the world and see the man of God just deliver the word and bring the word to the entire world as he has been doing throughout his life. The special moments of having to be with him, to sit and listen to him, to be taught by him, to even be personally counseled by him. You know, these are the joys. I can tell you, a poor boy from the hood, from the ghetto.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Never would have thought that he would have been honored to that degree, that he would one day be with the servant of God, to be with the Son of God, to be taught by him, to be allowed to be in his presence and to be helped by him. That has been the greatest joy of my life.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you. And you have so many comments, and I'm sending the love right back. And at the end of it, he'll be able to see you all's comments, but I can't. It's so much, brother Minister.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And
is it good? Is it good? Are the comments good?
Absolutely. It's nothing but love. Nothing but love. Brother Minister, what do you do for fun?
You know, I'm actually a movie buff.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm actually a movie buff. And of course, I like reading, but I in sports. I enjoy sports, but I enjoy always have a lot of gangster movies.
Okay, yes, sir, yes, sir.
The Godfather is, of course, my favorite.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Godfather Part 1 and Part 2 are my favorites.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
There was a great movie about the Jewish mob called Once Upon a Time in America.
That's of course, yes, sir.
But no, I watch a lot of murder mysteries, analysis of crimes, and
yes, sir,
things of that nature. I enjoy that, and of course, you know, when I can get a chance to get away, to just get some sun, be in another place, be by the water, you know, just enjoy time with my loved ones, and you know that's important.
Praise be to Allah. And speaking of your loved ones, sir, how has becoming a grandfather or being a grandfather, how has that impacted your life?
Oh, I'm glad. I tell you, I think last year I have about 11 grandchildren now.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
They range in age from maybe about 8 or 9 all the way into their 20s.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah.
But I'll say this. I'm glad I'm grandfather, because that means they can go back home.
Yes, sir.
One summer I brought Hakeem's sons up to be with me.
Yes, sir. And
it was supposed to be for a month. 2 weeks into 15 days later, I was calling Hakeem. Okay. They wore me out. I love them dearly. But you got to have some real stamina to deal with young people like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For them, Hakeem is a great dad in terms of being committed to his sons and his daughter. And my other children, with their children, my daughter and other daughters who have children, they all have done a great job with their children.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Brother, formerly Brother Fontaine said, ASA, can you please ask him about the Final Call days as editor and general manager?
Wow, now that was intense.
Yes, sir.
That
Yes,
was
sir.
intense. I have to say, in many things that I've done in the Nation of Islam, that being the editor of the Final Call was one of the most intense responsibilities, because you are handling the responsibility of bringing the word of God to the people every single week without fail.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When I became the general manager, um, and to know that the Final Call has never missed an issue, it was a 7 day a week assignment. I'm telling
Mm, mm, mm.
you. Plus, of course, our publisher is our beloved minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you have to submit the paper to him for his approval.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
there's no greater man who knows the English language, who has a deeper insight as a publisher.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Founded in 1979. That's when the Final Call came out, May of 1979. The first issue, The Ultimate Challenge, the survival of the Black nation. And of course, Brother Abdul Rasul, who we formerly knew as Brother Fontaine, I was so thankful to Allah that he was there when I came to the Final Call.
Praise
And
be to Allah.
helped. He was the general manager, and at the time he was doing another duty, but we brought him back up to that position, and now he is the general manager of the Final Call. And now brother Naba Muhammad, who was formerly Brother Richard,
Yes, sir.
and got him to come back because he had once been the assistant editor.
Yes, sir.
And so it was also one of the great privileges. I'm very proud of the work we did at the Final Call, because that is the place where the greatest propagation comes from, that gives the bullets to the soldiers that go out to deliver the word of God. It
Yes,
is the
sir.
word
Yes, sir.
of God in paper form. And so while I'm on it, I challenge everyone, if you are a believer or friend or supporter, go to digital.finalcall.com and get you a digital subscription to the Final Call newspaper.
Yes, sir.
One of the greatest honors. And I have nothing but love and respect for Brother Abdul Rasul, Brother Naba, and all of the beautiful staff who worked very, very hard at the Final Call to produce the greatest newspaper in Black America, I would say even in the world, because it is the organ of truth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. I have two more questions for you, sir.
Yes.
First, I would just like to read some of the comments. Minister Jamil is sending you nothing but love. Brother Janelle, Brother Sultan Rahman, my sister Miriam, Sister Wali Allah Muhammad, Brother David, Brother Maurice, Brother Amon, Brother Michael. Thank you all, Brother Tommy, Sister Naima. I just want to thank. So I just want to make sure I give you all some, Sister Sandra. Everybody who's stuck in with you have so much love for you, sir. Thank you all. Sister Curtisa, I see everybody's comments. Sister Brandy, Brother Jamal from Baltimore said, please give Brother Arthur greetings from you. Thank you, Brother Jamal, for always showing love. Brother Andre, there's so many people who are sending you love, sir. Will you ever write a book about your life, sir?
Oh, brother, I have been pressed so long about that. And of course, all of our lives is a book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the short answer would be I would love to, and see how Allah guides me in that pursuit. But of course, now we're at war. We're in a battle with this imposter Jew who can't.
Yes, sir.
The fact that he was exposed on July 4th as
Oh,
the real Satan.
yes, sir.
We can't preach that God is a man and say that Satan is a spirit.
That's
Just
right. That's right.
Man, Satan is a man, and he is the arch deceiver, and he is the imposter Jew. So
yes, sir.
They're angry because they have been exposed. They're angry because the plot to cull billions of people have been foiled, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on July 4th said, we will not take your vaccine.
Yes, sir.
So, but of course, also he warned us about the pestilence that God brought from heaven because of our iniquitous behavior, our evil deeds, and that we should submit, that God would then give us some relief if we would, I think, be more humble and submit to the history. But I want to make this point to Black people.
Yes, sir.
Study, go back to NOI.org, NOIRG.org,
Yes, sir.
and really study the secret relationship between Blacks and Jews, volume 1, 2, and 3, for you
Yes,
to
sir.
really understand the Black hatred, the anti-Black hatred of this imposter Jew against you and I. They have
Yes, sir.
deceived the whole world into believing that they are the chosen people of God, and they have stolen the identity of the true people who are the chosen of God, which is us. And that is why Allah, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, came to us in July 1930, and how
Yes,
the
sir.
Prophet Louis Farrakhan on July 4th, 2020, made it known of his coming. And that day, July 4th, declared us independent. So we have to think and act independent, but study these books, The Secret Relationships Between Blacks and Jews, so that you will be armed with the knowledge of the hatred that has existed among us against us by them in every field of endeavor. And great shout out to my brother, student minister Ishmael Muhammad, who gave a great teaching today on the plot to kill Farrakhan, and he broke down a lot of that hatred. So study these messages that you can be informed, you can become knowledgeable, because at this point in time, we are the witnesses of Jesus. We are the witnesses of the Messiah, and we have to stand up now and shout this truth from the mountaintop.
Yes, sir.
Study to show ourselves approved.
Praise be to Allah. Just two more questions for you, Brother Minister. My next question is, how can people, what is the best tool that you believe can be used to help stop the slander that is happening on social media and at the workplace or wherever we see it, for average people who maybe not be in the Nation of Islam or who aren't ministers with a title? What can they say to help stop the slander when they hear it?
Well, first, you have to be knowledgeable. In order to stop something, you have to have the knowledge of how to stop it. Which
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Have the knowledge of the truth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's why the minister said in the Quran says, "And nay, we hurl truth against falsehood."
Yes, sir.
Until it knocks out its brains. You have to know the truth.
Yes, sir.
And once you know the truth, then you'll know how to respond. And that's what the minister was saying. We all have a personal responsibility to learn and know the truth, as Jesus said it best on July 4th. And you
yes,
shall
sir.
know the truth.
Yes, sir.
And the truth shall set you free. And so that is the truth. And so each of us, wherever we are, in whatever endeavors, we cannot allow falsehood to stand. We have to hurl truth against falsehood. But that also means we're supposed to exercise the greatest of intelligence. We're not to get in the gutter. We're not to act other than a civilized man or woman, because the truth is its own weapon. So we don't have to resort and act like a beast in attempting to debate someone on the truth. Just
yes, sir.
Tell the truth. Keep your dignity, keep your high level of civilization. And as long as they fight you with words, you fight them back with the word of God and the word of truth. If they come another way, then God tells you, and you know what to do naturally. I don't have to, but that yes, is sir. Just act naturally.
Yes, sir.
As the minister said on July 4th, when he talked about the vaccines, he said, if you try to come and force us, to force upon us to take a vaccine, then that's a declaration of war. And we have to fight to protect the one life that we've been given. So
yes, sir.
We are never the aggressor in words or deeds, but if we are attacked, then we fight with those who fight with us in the name of Allah. Is that right? And as
yes,
our song says, we are fighting for Islam.
Yes,
and
sir.
What? Surely win.
Yes, sir.
Our Savior Allah, the universal King, we are united with our nation and called by his.
Yes, so sir.
Let us rise, ye Muslims, fight for your own. All right.
Okay, yes, sir. I got one more question for you, Brother Minister, and thank you again, and thank you all for your comments. if you all would like to continue the support and help the People's Podcast keep going, that's Cash App, $ the People's Podcast. A few quick commercial break for my sponsors, sir. My brother Rashad and brother Jamal, Street Premiere Video Production. They do 4K editing. Thank you for them. They working on film, television. They do a great work. My sister Miriam's children's book and coloring book, ABC I Love You. Thank you very much, Sister Miriam. My sister Naima has a dance company called Stay On Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young women all across the world. Supreme Men's Clothing, St. Louis, Missouri, 10835 West Florissant Avenue, 314-528-5555. Thank you. If y'all want to get dressed well, please reach out to our brother. BMW Entertainment, brother Ronald Muhammad in Phoenix, Arizona. They do event planning all across the country. Brother Kenneth Muhammad, bow tie maker extraordinaire, 917-337-1380. He'll ship the bow tie straight to you. Supreme Team Insurance, that's brother Todd X McGraw, 803-521-2787. Baby Bean Pies in Oakland, California, brother Carlton and sister Zakia Muhammad. I thank you all very much. I'm coming right back to you, brother minister.
Well, before
Sister
you ask me this question, let me just
Yes,
say this. I want to thank all of your sponsors, but I want to say that all of us who see the value of what you're doing, let us show support, because this is great what is happening here. And so make sure that we know again where we can go to send a donation to support this great work that you're doing.
Praise be to God. Yes, sir. It's a Cash App, the People's Podcast on Cash App. Thank you, sir. Sister Shelly Hassan, Exodus, A New Way of Life, creditrestoration.com. Brother Chantil X, Supreme X, The X Factor in Transportation and Logistics. Sister Serena Woodford in Fort Lauderdale, designsofcomposure.com, hollytexture.com, homemade hair and skincare products. Also, Brother Maurice D. Muhammad, 24 karat gold by the gram and by the 10th, the real currency online / Asiatic Cents. Sister Tia, Raising Black Millionaire flashcards. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, abdulsharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, No Father, No Excuse, which is on Amazon, and my children's book, Cleopatra, which is on Amazon as well. Thank you all very much. Brother Minister, what would you like your legacy to be, sir?
Well, my legacy, I would like to believe and think should simply be this, that I was blessed to know Christ, to know God, and to know their servant, and that I was one who was called and picked to serve.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's no greater legacy than that. And of course, you know, by the grace of Allah, you don't think about that as much. You never think about legacy as such. You just do the work. And by the grace of Allah, you have an impact in this life, and you touch people, and you have been demonstrating that you have a life filled with purpose and that you're living the purpose of your life. And so to me, that's really the legacy. It in history, it'll be the we, those who stood with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we who fought for the liberation of our people. To be in that number, we, is the greatest legacy that I can think of.
Allahu Akbar. Well, thank you very much, Brother Minister. You have truly gave us some information and gave me the spirit this Sunday and some inspiration. I thank you. I love you. I love your family. Please continue to inspire us, and thank you for walking with the Jesus in our midst in this dark hour. We appreciate you for standing tall, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Give your love to your family and everyone.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for watching the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.